Hello and welcome to the Lily Mercer Show. I'm here with the wonderful Budgie. Yay!
How you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
And we've got something important to talk about today because last week you released a very important album. It was a double album.
Yeah, actually a couple weeks ago I did The Good Book with Alchemist, one of my musical heroes, so it feels good to have that out. It's a double CD, gospel sample extravaganza.
And you're very well known for your gospel sampling because of you've had two projects with the Gospel According to Budgie, part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So did Alchemist hear those and reach out to you, or how did the project come about?
Basically, a friend of mine, Crispy Cuts, he introduced Alchemist to Piff Gang, and he was feeling Piff Gang, and then we got to link up with him. I was playing him gospel records. Then a few months later I went to LA, played him some more gospel records that I'd found out there. Then I made my second gospel mixtape, The Gospel According to Budgie 2, and sent him a bunch of copies. And then literally 2 weeks later I got a DM from him saying, yo, let's do a project together. And I was just like, of course. Like, didn't have to ask me twice.
Because the way that you did it by splitting it in half and you both having a side each, like, were there like points where you thought he might use a sample you wanted to use or use a record that you were holding on to?
Yeah, actually, I thought that might happen and it didn't happen. But then after I was going through my records that I hadn't listened to in a while, after hearing his side, I found that I actually had a couple of his samples. And yeah, I'm sure he's got a couple of mine as well. There's, like, we both kind of dig around in that same style of gospel, so it was bound to happen, but it didn't, thankfully, for the actual project, but we definitely overlap on some things.
And how did you find out that he was a fan of gospel? Did that come about before you
know
worked
what?
with him?
It's actually quite a long story. I'm basically into gospel because Alchemist did a beat for Snoop 10 years ago for R&G. The intro track on that album was an Alchemist beat, and it had a gospel sample, which was Andre Crouch. And being a geeky little kid, I used to read the credits of like where they got the samples from, and I was blown away by that beat. So after that, I was just looking for Andre Crouch records, and I couldn't find any. Eventually, I found a couple, and then I was like, this is amazing when I heard the rest of it, because it had kind of like new instrumentation that I'd never heard, and all kinds of sounds, sounding like prog rock mixed with soul, mixed with classical music, and I was like, this is amazing. So after that, I was just on the trail for gospel records after hearing that one Snoop Dogg tune that Alchemist had produced.
And your dad is owns a record shop, so have you been like crate digging since like 2 years old?
I was crate digging through his collection first. He has like thousands of records, so that was my first record shop. And obviously I go to the shop and dig there, but just going through my dad's records was, huge.
So can you tell me how one of your beats ended up on Jesus?
The Gospel According to Budgie mixtape, part 2. Basically, Benji B heard that mixtape, and he ended up working with Kanye on Jesus, and they needed like a sample for the track that the sample ended up on, and Benji brought that sample to the table, and they ended up using it. They ended up having to like replay it and do a bunch of stuff to make it suitable for the album, but initially they wouldn't have heard that sample if it wasn't on my mixtape. So shout to Benji for making that happen.
But what have you got coming next? Do you think there'll ever be a good book too, or is it just for now you're
There's definitely going to be some more gospel installments with some other pretty cool producers that you're going to like. But next month I got another record coming out on this label called Wild Heart, which is based here, but it's this guy called Theo Parrish who is running it, and he's a pretty big deal in the kind of house and techno soul scene, a bit more left, but the my music that I'm putting out on it's just kind of hip-hop beats. So that's to look forward to next month.
Well, thank you for joining me on the Lily Mercer Show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Lily.